So the word bob gets thrown around in the haircutting world all of the time. A bob is not really a haircut at all. A bob is really a category of hair, because a bob can be short, a bob can be long, a bob can be layered, a bob could be graduated, a bob could be a one length, a bob could be longer in the front and shorter in the back, a bob could be the same length front to back, a bob could be shorter in the front and longer in the back. So when we use the word bob, or our guests use the word bob, we really need to break it down and ask them what they see in it. We're not looking for that name, we're looking for something specific. The guest is going to describe what they want to see in their haircut as an adjective or an effect. Lightness, movement, heaviness, fullness. We create all of those things through elevation. So what we're going to create today is something that a guest might call a bob. It's going to have the look of a one length, meaning that it's going to be really full and solid on the outline, but it's going to have movement like layering does without visible layering coming down. Now, I'm not creating invisible layering. That is not really a thing. That's just putting layers on the internal side of the haircut. But I can sell you all those fancy words, but at the end of the day, all that we're doing is we're elevating hair and we're changing our cutting line. So let's get to it. Today, we want to create something that is fuller on the perimeter, looks more like a one length, but has the movement of a layer. But we want to create that without putting a lot of shorter layers over the surface of the haircut. So where we're going to put the layering is in the internal aspect of the haircut. So if you want to create a haircut that has movement and fullness at the same time, you need to layer the hair first and then cut your perimeter into your desired length. And that's how we're going to go through it today. Because if I try to create my perimeter first, I'm pulling all the hair down and create a really solid outline here. I'm never going to get the movement that I'm looking for in the haircut. The hairline recession here all the way around to low crown and down is the hair that I'm going to elevate it up, and I'm going to cut a pretty short internal layer. That short length of layer up here at the top is what's going to give me the movement in the bottom of the haircut. I'm going to be working below the frontal ridge with a lot of elevation and just a flat cutting line connecting my length from the inside to the outside. My elevation is just going to be more than 90 degrees. So we know that as being a concave layer. So we're going to create a concave layer underneath the frontal ridge here, which is going to free up the bottom of the haircut. Then through the top now, we're going to drop this down and cut it on top of our perimeter after we do that, but we're going to cut the top with a razor so we can vary the amount of weight that we have at the ends of the hair and still keep the perimeter full. How short do I need to cut this layer? We need to have the end result as far as like the overall perimeter length in mind. My new perimeter length is going to fall above the neck and below the chin. This hair at the top of the section to be shorter than that length. That way it frees up the bottom. I'm going to work a vertical section. One, it's going to really assist me in elevating the hair. But two, it's going to allow me to look at the length of the top and the length of the bottom and make that connection process. So bringing that through, bringing it up. Cutting a flat line from the inside to the outside of the hairline just allows me to reduce the weight on the interior of the haircut. Using a traveling guide, I'm going to continue to work each section the same way. At the mask fade process is my last section. While I clip the front panel up, we're going to drop it down and we're not going to cut it until we create our new perimeter length. On the opposite side, I'm keeping the same body position so I can keep the cutting line consistent from side to side, as the cutting line is what's most important here. So now that I've layered the internally on the haircut, you can see that there's a shorter layer here that sits all the way down through here. Now I'm going to come through and now I'm going to create my perimeter or my outline of my haircut. Have some choices to make. Now I can make it what a flat line or flat angle from front to back is going to give the guest is equal movement, meaning that hair is going to move towards the face as much as it does away from the face. And typically, because you're cutting that flat line, you also have the same flat line in the back here. And that flat line in the back is going to give my guest the haircut that has the same movement from the left that it does to the right. If I give my perimeter a line that's slightly angled, meaning it's shorter in the back and longer to the front, it's only really going to move towards their face. And that's going to feel the heaviest and fullest there. And it's got the lightest and the most movement back here. Lastly, I could even make it just slightly shorter up front and just a tad bit longer into the back, and that's going to give them movement away from their face, and it's going to open up their face. We have a lot of decisions that we can make in the perimeter here, and all of those decisions and choices should be based off the movement the guest is wanting to see. So today we're going to create something that's a little bit more triangular, meaning that it's going to be slightly shorter in the back and get longer towards the front. Now I'm going to create my perimeter with my razor, and we have two options when we're cutting it with a razor, like a traditional feather razor. What this is going to be great for is being really safe. I love to use this razor to remove density at the ends of the hair, almost like it's a texturizer. So, or you can use your straight razor. The benefit of this is there's no guard. You can take off as much density off the ends of the hair and length off the ends of the hair as you possibly can, because there's nothing protecting the blade. This is really my tool of choice for creating my perimeter, because I can use it to take off my length really efficiently, and I can then use it to remove some of the bulk at the ends of the hair as I see fit. So I'm going to be using my straight blade when I work through this today. There's a couple things we need to know about a straight blade too, is the parts of the straight blade. We have the toe, which is the end. We have the flat of the blade, which is in the center. And then we have the heel, which is the backside. Now I use the toe or the heel, depending on which direction I'm working, to help me create my guide length. I use the flat of the blade to help me remove density. It's from a razor like vertical to remove weight or density internally as I work my way through. So my section is going to be a horizontal diagonal forward. My elevation is really low. It's almost about the depth of my finger off the base of the neck. Using the heel of my razor to create my new outline allows me to work safely with the razor as it keeps the toe and the flat of the blade moving away from the guest. So really small movements through with my razor creates a really clean outline. That's what's going to make it look fuller here, but not be like a bulky, like a one length. Now the other thing the razor did for me is, if you notice all the little staggered length all the way around here to the outside, that's going to allow me to have more expansion on the end result. I'm going to pull it down on top of number one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the hair away from its natural fall, allow my guide to drop off, and then take my next section and then keep it again. Really small movements with my blade all the way through. What this section is allowing me to do is to look at the length here and to look at the length here and decide how I want to connect it through. So I pull it down to number two, then I move it away from number two, and now when I'm here I can see my length, and I start again with my stroking method. Now what you're going to start getting is a small bit of graduation here at the bottom of the haircut. And that's okay to have a tiny bit of graduation, because that's what's going to give us the fullness. Again, not be blunt like a one length, but it's going to be heavy, but have movement. There's my guide right here. Small little motions. Now, as I'm moving through bone structure, I'm just going to move my body position to be parallel to my section. Because of where I'm at, I started getting a lot more weight on the ends of the hair. I want to bring that section, the last one out. I want to take my razor, go straight down it. Internally, just create a little bit more movement. Through. The reason why I didn't do that before is because that's at the bottom of the hairline. I don't really need that movement at the bottom of the hairline. I need that movement here where the hair starts to get a little bit more dense. Bring it back. There's my line, my length. There's my guide. For this one, I'm just going to rotate my doll head rather than my body position. Now through here, once I start getting into the front, I really want to be mindful of the hair that's traveling from the top of the hairline. I'm going to adjust my elevation. My elevation was out here. I'm going to bring my elevation much tighter to the skin because I want to keep that length intact. And now I'm just cutting with the flat of the blade right here on the surface. So adjusting my elevation here is going to help me preserve the length and the density that I need in this area. Now that I've moved away from the head shape, I can now utilize more of the razor. So utilizing the flat of the blade, I'm creating a stronger or a broader stroking method to create a looser feel in the back, and then go back to the tighter stroking into the sides to create a cleaner outline. This is where my length is going to be, right through here at the bottom. There's my perimeter that I'm going to clean up and refinement. So even though I cut this with a razor, it's still technically down. I still have a buildup of weight from short to long through here. The difference is you can see how much spacing is at the ends of all of the hair here. That's really going to allow me to create something that has a lot of movement on the ends of the hair, but still has a ton of structure. So before I move on, I want to free the weight up here And again, I'm going to take my razor, lay it right in there, and just slice it right through just to take out some of that density to the top where my elevation got really heavy. So I'm going to apply a little of everyday leave-in treatment. So now I'm working the opposite side, but now my razor's coming down from the top. Now I'm utilizing the toe of the razor to keep the heel and the flat of the blade moving away from the guest's head shape. So keeping the lines consistent from side to side is key. On the first side, I talked about pulling it down to your guide and then pulling it away from your guide. Here you can see that being done. Pull it down to section number 2 and then out away from the shape of the head. So your elevation is really low, but what's creating the graduation is the control of your cutting line. Elevation is just the control of the hair off the root of the head. Same consistent movement from back to front again. Now my last few sections, if you notice how low the elevation is here, and then pulling the front down to create my length. In the top panels, I have a really strong outline now. I'm just going to pull that hair down almost in its natural fall and cut my new external shape. The densest part of the hair is in that front hairline. You notice I use the flat of the blade just to work my way through that rather than the toe or the heel. In refinement, my focus is just on the perimeter length down at the bottom of the nape. I'm just using my scissor to cut all of that length off. There we go, little razor bobby.